Derrick Rose has officially retired from the game of basketball at age 35, and what a career he had. I mean, he could have easily gave up years ago, retired early on, but he kept fighting through the injuries, had some amazing moments after those injuries. So it's time we look back on his incredible 2011 MVP season.
Yeah, he won NBA MVP at age 22, right around the time that most people are finishing up their senior year of college. And just the highlight reel from this year, the dunks, the crossovers, the crazy moments, led the Bulls to the first seed out east when everyone thought it was going to be either Boston's or Miami's. Just what a year.
Before we get into Derrick Rose's MVP season, please give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on any new videos. So before we get into the video, we do want to mention, you guys can calm down, there will be a Derrick Rose career retrospective at one point, but we wanted to get something out. I mean, he just retired. He deserves it.
It's on a very long list.
Yes, a very, very long list. Anyways, going into the 2011 season, the Bulls were definitely on the rise. You had Derrick Rose coming off an all-star season. He won Rookie of the Year prior. Then you had Luol Deng was still young, entering his prime. Joakim Noah was becoming a dominant defensive big. And they also signed Carlos Boozer. I mean, they did want to get Dwayne Wade and LeBron to form a big three with him and D Rose. Would have been an incredible team, one of the best teams ever, but they got Carlos Boozer instead.
I mean, it's like wanting a McLaren and you get back like a Honda Civic. Honda Civic's nice, there's nothing wrong with it, but you missed out on a McLaren.
Yeah.
Actually, think about it, you missed out on a McLaren and then probably like a Lamborghini too. Besides that, you had a good supporting cast, nice mix of young guys and veterans, Kyle Korver, Taj Gibson, Ronnie Brewer, CJ Watson. Also, brought in Tibbs as your new coach. They replaced Vinny Del Negro, a guy who was a good coach and also the coach that, as a white guy, you always feel a little uneasy saying his name. But, they brought in Tibbs, who, massive upgrade. I mean, Vinny Del Negro, he's a good coach. He had some good seasons with the Clippers, but he ain't Tibbs.
Yeah, he ain't Tibbs at all. And it's interesting to look back. I mean, the Bulls got the first seed this year. They were incredible, but they were actually projected to finish fourth in a very tough Eastern Conference, to be fair. You had the Celtics coming off making the finals, one game away from being NBA champions again. You had the new look Heat. Everyone was talking about them, the big three Heat. And then you still had Dwight and the Magic, so it was pretty tough out there in the East.
First game of the season, though, the Bulls matched up with the up-and-coming Oklahoma City Thunder, and they'd fall by 11. Rose would give you 28, but on pretty poor shooting, but he completely redeemed himself in their home opener against the Pistons. 39 points, 7 assists, 6 boards, had a ridiculous up-and-under layup against Tayshaun Prince and Ben Gordon in this game, and that would just become a running theme throughout the year. I mean, if you want to look at, all-time layup packages, I know people like to go, oh, Kyrie, Steph, even Russell Westbrook. I think there's a good argument to be made that Derrick Rose had the best layup package in NBA history.
At least up and unders. I don't even get how he did it so quick. I'm like, is that an up and under? Or was that just a normal layup? It was ridiculous. Had another circus layup that game against the Pistons. But overall, the Bulls kind of struggled in their first couple weeks with Tibbs. They start 9-8 after falling to the Celtics in early December. Derrick Rose, though, he did have some nice moments. He had this dunk against the Knicks where he just flies past Tony Douglas and then throws it down on Gallinari. Caught Ty Lawson and Aaron Aflalo just straight ball watching and then found Ronnie Brewer for a dunk. And then against the Suns in late November, dude came up huge. 35 points, 12 boards, 7 assists, made some big plays down the stretch, including a game-tying layup to send the game to double overtime. They win 123-115, and then he had that iconic crossover on Tyreek Evans. Just straight turn him around and made him fall.
Also, one of the best crossovers in NBA history.
Yeah.
Prime Derrick Rose. I mean, just the combination of speed, jumping ability, strength too. He was incredible. And as a point guard too, this was still around the time when point guards were, Nash, Darren Williams, Chris Paul, distributors. He was one of the first guys that was like, no, I'm going to attack the rim. I'm going to score the ball.
Yeah, we had Russ, who...
Russ there too, yeah.
Is probably the most athletic point guard ever, but outside of him, Derrick Rose needs to get mentioned more often.
Bulls would turn things around in December, though. They lost their first 2 games of the month, but then they'd go on to win 12 of their next 14. Did look like they were going to start 0-3 on the month as they were down 109-106 to the Rockets with just 10 seconds left, but after a bit of a scramble on offense, Rose ends up with the ball with 2 Rockets players flying at him at the 3-point line, but he just completely swishes it. And one thing I do love about this play is Carlos Boozer's reaction afterwards. He just gives a classic fist pump and scream. Normally NBA players are pretty good on, especially the ones on the floor, about all right, we got to go to overtime, don't celebrate, get too much. Boozer's like, Yeah.
Bulls follow that up, winning their next 6 games, had a win over OKC at home and a win versus the Lakers at home during this stretch. And then once we got to the new year, the highlight plays just continued. In a win versus the Cavs, he had just this ridiculous layup where he goes up and under again, flies past Ramon Sessions, then goes up and under against Antoine Jameson and JJ Hickson. Had another nice up and under against the Raptors. He splits a double team, then gets around Bargnani. And then a week later, he had my favorite play of this entire season. Caught that one-handed lob from Ronnie Brewer against the Pistons, and he literally hangs in the air for like a second.
He does, yeah.
He's waiting for the ball.
He is. He gets up and this guy's like, not here yet.
I
gotta wait, gotta wait. Jeopardy music playing, like right. he's waiting up there. February also against the Blazers, one that we remember had just a nasty crossover against Wesley Matthews, and then Nick Batum makes a very smart business decision. I mean, Nick was tall and had long arms, so maybe he could have put up an effort, but I ain't trying to stop that guy.
Yeah, I don't want to see Derrick Rose coming at me and try to block that shot. Absolutely not. And then 10 days after that, he drops a career high 42 points versus the Spurs, also had 8 assists, and this game was huge. Final game going into the All-Star break, put up a career high against the Spurs, best record in the league at the time, caps off a 4-game win streak, and then pulls you within 4 games of the Celtics at first. What a way to go into the All-Star break. During the All-Star break, he was an All-Star starter. Wasn't great in the All-Star game, 11 points, but All-Star starter at age 22, I think damn near anyone would take that.
Oh, yeah. You think?
Anyone maybe in the world, that's a good position to be in.
Yeah, the Bulls came out red hot after the All-Star break, too. They went 24-4 to finish the season. Lost to the Raptors in their first game back from the All-Star break, but then went on to win 11 of their next 12. 2 of those were against the Heat, who they were in the battle for the first seed with. The second one was on the road in Miami. They won 87-86 after LeBron and Wade both missed potential game winners. They actually swept Miami in the season series 3-0, which, I mean, for a young team on the come-up to sweep a team like Miami that, was still learning to play together, but they had LeBron, Wade, Bosh, incredibly impressive.
Absolutely. They would finally take an L to the Pacers on March 18th, though. Definitely not Derrick Rose's fault. He drops 42 again, ties their career high, but they fall 115-108 in overtime. But they did get back in the win column a couple days later, and in this game, D. Rose caught a lob from Keith Bogans, threw down a big dunk, and Scottie Pippen, courtside, he was loving it.
Bulls legend, loving what he was seeing. He's like, imagine me and Mike had this cat on our team. 4 days later, Rose would seal a game versus the Grizzlies with an and one where he basically just drove past the entire team. And the next day against the Bucks, he was just terrorizing poor Brandon Jennings. Had a couple of crossovers on him, one of which he just completely sent Jennings the wrong way. And they finished up April with a perfect 8-0 record in the month. Of course, I mean, just highlight plays aplenty. Had a chase down block on James Johnson near the end of the third in a win versus the Raptors. Crossed up Rondo against the Celtics and just cut through a sea of Celtics defenders. Dropped 39 in a win against the Magic on their final road game of the season. And then in a blowout win against the Knicks, had a steal and then like a reverse double pump dunk on his way down the floor. Just what a season for this team. I mean, getting the first seed when, again, everyone thought it was Miami or Boston, and it was Miami or Boston for most of the season, but Bulls have an incredible finish to the year, and they get the #1 seed in the Eastern Conference.
And the dominance continued right into the playoffs. The first 2 games against the Pacers, he goes off for 39 in game 1, 36 in game 2. They win the series in 5 to advance to the second round. There they took on the Hawks, actually lost game 1, 103-95, but they respond to win game 2, 86-75. And this was actually the game he received his MVP trophy. Thank God the NBA went back to this. The regular season awards during the summer, that was ass.
It was like the NBA was trying to have its own Oscar show or something.
Yeah.
Who actually watched that?
Nobody.
Like, genuinely, if you sat down and watched it, I get maybe if you had a player on your team who was in the MVP discussion, maybe you'd watch it. But if you were watching the NBA postseason awards show,
and we already really knew the winners.
Everyone knew, yeah.
Rest of the series, though, Rose balls out. 44 in game 3, 34 and 10 in game 4, 33 and 10 in game 5. They eventually win the series in 6 and advance to the conference finals. First time getting back there since Mike was around, so it was a big moment in Chicago. The fun would end there, though, and to be honest, the Heat kind of shut him down.
Yeah, they did. The Heat's defense, whether it was LeBron, Wade, Bosh on the interior, they really made it tough on him. He had some nice dunks in game 4, but other than that, yeah, it was, kind of a disappointing series, but you're playing against a really good Miami Miami team in your first conference finals. I mean, there's not too much shame in that, I don't think.
And in terms of legacy of this MVP season, I mean, I don't see anytime soon a player's going to win MVP at 22 or younger. I mean, maybe Wemby. You got to throw Wemby out there, but at the same time, that is very tough to do because most MVPs these days are like 28, 29, maybe even 30.
Yeah, I mean, Cooper Flagg, though, raising that MVP trophy for the Blazers in a couple of years is going to look real nice. But nah, jokes aside, yeah, winning the MVP at 22 that young, I'm sure it'll happen again at some point, but it's probably another like 30, 40 years away. Because wasn't the only other one that young before Rose? Wasn't it like Wes Unseld?
Yeah.
Like back when we were still black and white TVs?
Right. And finally, we got to say, put him in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I mean, that MVP is going to do some heavy lifting for his Hall of Fame case. But I mean, this is the NBA Hall of Fame. Like, everybody gets in. Like,
right.
This isn't the NFL. This isn't baseball where like actually like Hall of Fame level players wait a couple times. Like, this is the NBA. Everyone gets in. Let him in.
So what do you guys think? Does D Rose belong in the NBA Hall of Fame? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving a like. And hey, while you're here, check out some of our other content as well. Don't forget to subscribe. Synthetic Sports.